Good evening, Noob Gamers. How are we this evening? As we've said on Facebook in the build-up to this Sunday, we are live and we're bringing you another event on Sunday. For the second time, our Sunday stream is full underway. Every Sunday we'll be here bringing you a race straight to your living room, straight to your mobile phone, to your TV, wherever you're watching Twitch these days. But we're here again to bring you what should be another exciting race from Project Cars 2. Now, last week, for the very first time, I was joined in the commentary box by a little-known man called Ben Glastonbury. However, this week, he's away twiddling his thumbs, so we bring to you one of the founders of the Noob Gamers community, Jimmy H. Official. How are you, my friend?
Good evening. Yeah, all good. Thank you. Really pleased to be co-commentating with you this evening. Nice to step away from racing and fill the viewers in on a bit of action tonight. And I've got to say, I am excited for what we have this evening.
Good. I'm very excited. If you don't know, and you should know, we've got 26, that's right, 26 cars taking part in this 1 hour endurance race this evening. I mean, first, second, third corner, Jimmy, we're going to have some fun, aren't we?
I think Carnage is on the cards. I had a little look through the deck of cards earlier, and certainly at the top of the pile was Carnage. Nice. 26 races. This track is very narrow in parts. A relatively quick track, and these drivers are quick. Some of them are very quick, so the slightest of errors could be interesting. Like you say, corner one on this is always an interesting corner, especially with so many drivers on the track to start with.
Exactly, and we must say hello to the people who have joined us already this evening on Twitch. So Nemo, hello all, welcome to the chat, and Rolfie, our old friend, is back. He unfortunately missed Thursday's event, but he's here to support his boys on the Sunday and get involved with the stream. And we've also been joined by Petrolhead, who's just popped in the chat and said hi. So good evening to you, sir. Welcome to the stream. And Noob Gamer Jimmy there just getting involved, giving everyone a nice big welcome. Cheeky One Smack. It's all kicking off and the chat's getting lively. And we're ready for an exciting race. Jimmy, I'm going to turn on the Megatron. Do you want to help me press the big red button to turn it on?
I've always wanted to press the big red button.
Tell me when you're about to press it.
I'm about to press it.
Ooh, no! Oh, he's made it happen.
I have. Oh.
And there we go. The Megatron is on behind us.
There it is.
Isn't that exciting for everyone to see? And just while we're there, Cheeky One Smack has dropped us a lovely, you could almost say cheeky, given the namesake, subscription to our Twitch channel. So a big thank you to Cheeky One Smack there for the Twitch Prime subscribe.
Cheeky, thanks. Appreciate that.
The Megatron is on, but it's not good enough just to see the Megatron behind me. You guys want to see the full screen, right? So we'll bring that live to you right now.
So you join us then with 11 minutes remaining on practice. So this is a good time for the guys to get a feel for the track. Most of them have been practicing all week. This is a good time for them to get a feel for the track and work out where some of the tighter corners are going to be, figure out where some of the apexes are, and then a chance to dial in some of their settings. So after this, they'll have the opportunity to go back to their pits, speak to their race engineer and program in, dial in any settings they may need, adjust tire pressures, suspensions, rear downforce, front downforce, how low the cars ride into the road, and all of these minor tweaks will adjust big things during the game. So for example, we're on board at the moment with Higgs Boson, and he might find that perhaps in some of the tighter, faster corners he's losing the back end, so he can just go back to the pits, speak to the race engineer, and just adjust the downforce on his rear spoiler slightly, which will give him a bit more grip in some of those faster, tighter corners. However, that may slow him down on the straight, so it's very much a balancing act with some of these drivers, Ryan. And I think that with 26 races on the track, like we've mentioned, I think some of the tweaks they need to make will make a big difference to the race.
Yeah, massively. You're absolutely right. I mean, fundamentally, the cars are very, very similar. All right, the liveries are a bit different, and the brands of the cars are a little bit different, but fundamentally the cars are similar. So as you said, the little tweaks they're going to be making to the cars, whether it's the downforce, whether it's all the different things you can think of that you might need to tweak in a car, can certainly give some of the racers a slight edge over the competition this evening. Because as you rightly mentioned, a lot of them have been working away during the week, trying to just finely tune their cars to get it into a position that they're really happy with. And hopefully it should make for some great racing, because we know the boys and girls have put some really good solid time into this track. And just from the looks of us going around with Berserker at the moment, Jimmy, there's loads of corners to be had and loads of fun for us to be watching at home, I imagine.
Yeah, I think that we've got several very, very quick races in here, some of which have raced in the recent New Gamers Championships. We've been doing a GT3 series. We're on week 4 of 4 next Thursday, and we know some of these guys are very, very quick. Evidence, very quick. Rob, quick. Some of the humps, very quick. Salty, very quick. In fact, most of these guys are pretty good, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
Lots of corners. I think 1, 2, 3. I'm not quite sure how many corners in total, but there is a particularly nasty one, and I can't think which it is. There's a long straight. It curves around to the right, and then there's a very sharp 180 degree right-hand corner, which is going to cause some carnage. It's the main hairpin after the start-finish, so I'm anticipating some action there.
Exactly, no, it should be good. So we're just looking down the field now. T-Mac, who finished last Sunday's race in second place to Gamasuke. It was a really close run effort from start to finish, but just the tactics around the pits was what brought Gamasuke that victory in the end, with a mistake from T-Mac in the closing stages. But from experience, from what we've seen so far, Jimmy, T-Mac should be up there towards the top of the grid, as he is in practice already.
Yeah, T-Mac's a good driver. Let's follow him now around this first lap. So we've got corner 1 there, which is a long sweeping right-hand corner. That's quite a fast corner, but with 26 drivers, that's going to cause some carnage. Now, this is the 180 hairpin I was talking about. This is a slow corner. He's down into first. We're looking at no more than 40 miles an hour through that corner, accelerating all the way out. And this is now a long sweeping left corner, and you can really get your foot down in third, maybe fourth gear here, pushing kind of 80, 90 miles an hour, something like that. Coming up now to the first split. So this is where the drivers will get their first split time here. And now there's a sharp left-hand corner, another tight hairpin, not quite as tight as the first, but again, the pack should still be quite tight here. So that's, again, going to cause some problems. There's plenty of space either side to run off. So it should keep damage to a minimum, bumping into walls, things like that. There's not many. This is an interesting corner. It goes right, and then it goes right a little bit more. So there's a right and then a straight and then a bit more right. A bit more straight. Now you'd be slowing down here, probably looking at second or third gear coming out of this corner, looking to push 80 miles an hour upwards. Now really, really long straight. The boys can get their foot down here, and they should be pushing final gear, sixth gear, something like that. And we should see some of the boys hit speeds of kind of 140, 145 coming into this corner. You need to be hard on the brakes because there's a bit of a chicane here, and that's a tight corner there. Coming at 140 miles an hour, left and right is tricky. There's a long sweeping right corner now, and you've got to be careful at the end of this because this comes right, it keeps coming round, and then there's a sharp left, and if the driver's not paying attention to what's going on around them, there could be some carnage. So if you look how long that is, here's the sharp left now. You want to just clip that apex and accelerate straight out of there, and now it's a long race, long straight down, narrow track here, only room for maybe one overtake, something like that down here, and you'll be crossing the line, and T-Mac's looking at 152s, 153, something like that. Some of the slower guys perhaps 155s, Ryan.
Yeah, great to see a full lap there, so the people at home can understand what we're going to be seeing. There's certainly a lot of corners there that, with 26 cars going full throttle, are going to cause a lot of issues. What actually pleases me the most is, unlike last week, we look at the split times between the various different lap times that have been placed by the competitors already, and there's really not that much to split them. I mean, you look at first to 16th place at the moment, and we're talking less than 3 seconds, which, over a course of a lap is a fairly decent amount of time. But actually, when you get all the cars together racing from the line, go, 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 26 cars, that's not going to make much difference, is it?
No, I think, and what you should see over the course of these next kind of 5 minutes and also into qualifying is some of those will close down a bit now. So right now we should have tyres warm, brakes warm, engines ready. And so the boys now should start to be putting in some slightly quicker times. So what you might find is that, like you say, those top 16, there's 3 seconds separating them. Is that may get even narrower. That might come down to kind of 2:8, 2:9, something like that. Which, like you say, Ryan, will make that a lot tighter, a much tighter pack. I'm excited to see what happens in qualifying. I think we've got a 15-minute qualifying after this. And it should be interesting to see who starts where. What's your predictions for pole?
Well, it was going to be T-Mac all the way, just based on experience from last time. But you can see already he's been picked to the post in terms of the first place finish in practice so far. But I'd like to think his experience on this game would shine through, and he'll pick up the first place position. Now the rest of the grid, obviously there's a lot of new races here this evening that we don't perhaps know, because we've never had this amount of races to contend with before in the commentary box. But someone who I did really like from the last race, who we saw make loads of attacks and work their way up the grid, was Azita. Now they're currently in 4th place, currently just under half a second off the pace in terms of the podium position number 1. But the consistency Azita showed through the last race, and it's clear they've got some skills. I think there could be a dark horse for a top 3 podium place for qualifying, and I think we could also see some thrills and spills throughout the race as they race hard again to try and get in the top 3. So I'm gonna clock them as my dark horse this evening. What about yourself?
Good question. Tricky. I mean, there's lots of racers down here who seem to be spending a lot of time in the pits, who could come through and shine a bit. I think we all know Evidence is a pretty fast racer. We spoke about T-Mac again, who is also pretty good. I don't know. I'd like to maybe Higgs Boson, because I like the name. Sin races in the Noob Gamer GT3 Championships running on Thursdays.
Yep.
Mad Knife not put any practice in yet.
Just chilling.
With 2 minutes left, just chilling. Doesn't need to practice. Whatever. Get out there, qualify. Maybe first, maybe second. Finish top 3.
Yeah.
Let's have a little look through some of the remaining races now. A couple of guys coming into pits. Only a couple of minutes left, so they'll be coming into the pits and hopefully just making a few final tweaks to their car. Bob Hump 3. Based on these timings, starting in 8th, but we do have 15-minute qualifying, so that could all change. Berserker 013. I've not seen Berserker race before, have you?
Yeah, raced last time out on the Sunday event. Was up there in terms of the pack, but didn't really challenge any of the top places. But again, as we've spoken about earlier, the races this evening, there's so many of them, and there's so much talent amongst the ranks as well, that everyone has a good level of basic racing ability. So if people start making mistakes, if the pack gets caught up with loads of people trying to go around the corners, knocking each other about, it could really open up the door to someone new taking those top places this evening, because the level amongst, you look at the top 5 now, and less than half a second split the top 5, which means this race could be thoroughly enjoyable.
And don't forget, this is an hour-long race.
Yeah.
This is an endurance race. This is going to require focus, concentration. This isn't a kind of a 20-minute race you can just get your foot down and blast around the track as quick as you can. This is an hour, so they're going to have to be thinking of tyre wear. They're going to have to be thinking of brakes. There will be a couple of pit stops for all of them. They'll need to think about their tyres. It's a sunny afternoon. The track will be warm. You might have softs. They're going to burn down quite quickly, so you might have some move on to the slightly harder tyres for longer lasting. There's going to be some knocks and bumps because this is touring. Naturally, there's knocks and bumps. Knocks and bumps obviously cause damage, so the drivers will need to decide at what level of damage they're going to need to pit for. So you might find some cars driving around with bumpers hanging off and a rear spoiler gone, but they might decide just to keep on going, especially if they're kind of 3/4 of the way into the race. doing quite well, they might decide to push it. Another thing they need to look out for here is, as we just followed Berserker into the pits, who for some reason doesn't seem to be driving, is their pit limit. The pit speed limit is 37 miles an hour, and the drivers must get their pit limiter on before they enter the pits, and they must be doing 37 miles an hour as they enter the pits, because if they don't, there'll be penalties, and that could change a lot, especially with the timings as close as they are.
Exactly. So yeah, lots for the races to contend with tonight. So whilst we've just finished the end of practice right now, let's have a look on the old chat and see what people are getting up to. So we must say a warm welcome to everyone at home watching tonight. It's really great to have your support here this evening. We've got Fergs23 on the chat, said he's on strike until he receives his winning porridge from last week. I'm sure we can get that in the post due nice and early, Ferg, so hopefully we can sort that out for you. It's also a hello from Dr. Mortis78. He's going for Roughneck to go number one this evening, as we see Bob Hump spin over the line there. And the Roughneck fans are out in force, as Nemo's also giving him a shout out, with Cheeky One Smack as well giving him a shout out. Jimmy, can you confirm if Roughneck 1 is in the pack?
Can I confirm if Roughneck 1 is in the pack?
Is he there? Is he on the list? That's all we want
to... He's still on. He's on the list. Yeah, he's on the list.
Perfect.
He's still out on the track. In the pack, sorry. Yeah, no, he's still out in the track.
Okay, cool. There he is.
He's doing a 1:58. He's currently the slowest driver out there. However, he is a dark horse. I think I'm part of Club Roughneck 1, actually. I do like him. I think he's a good, safe driver. He's just coming into the pits now, which just leaves, I think, Bob Hump out on the track, cruising round. Practice is now complete. Good evening to Nick, who I think is watching from home. Thanks for choosing in. That is it. Practice session over. So here's how everything looks then, Ryan, after practice going into qualifying. Talk us through that.
So, number first place. That's a horrible phrase, isn't it? We've got Druck QS, which I'm assuming you got me to say that name because you don't know how to say it either, but who knows? But yeah, he's in first place with T-Mac in second. But actually, Jimmy, we're straight into qualifying now. There's no rest for the wicked, and we are straight into it. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen. This is where the racing gets tough. So it's all well and good putting your good times in during practice when the pressure's not on, but now the racers just have 15 minutes to make sure they get themselves a podium position. Now, compared to previous races that we've seen, where we might have, 10, 12, 16 races at most, as we've mentioned a few times already, with 26 races on the track today, Jimmy, qualifying is so important.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. Mr. Salt's gone out first there on qualifying. With, I think we've got Johnny One Note just coming out of the pits there, and a few others as well. So I would suggest Mr. Salt exited the pits first. He's first into qualifying. Let's watch him take this. This is just the out lap, so this is just going to be warming up the tyres, getting ready. And he's going to be probably first to put a time down. Possibly, although it looks like there's a couple of drivers ahead of him actually. Let's just follow him round now. See what Mr. Salt does. He's come to a standstill on the side of the track. Not sure why. He may just be texting his mum, or
well, he's just actually put a message on the Twitch channel, to be fair, saying "Hey mum." So he's obviously making sure that she's tuning in, doing that tonight. But as the drivers are just warming up their tyres, let's go through a few things how you can get involved for being at home. Now, the last couple of weeks we've added a new feature to the stream, which is a replay. We can show live replays of the last 25 seconds of action whenever you guys want. All you need to do to trigger that is put in the word exclamation mark followed by the word replay, or one word, exclamation mark replay. I believe it just takes two of you in order to trigger a replay. So if you have seen some particular good racing that you guys want to watch and you want to see it all over again, as Noob Gamer Jimmy has just dropped in the chat, that is the command we're looking for this evening, and you guys at home can see the replay. So I've just triggered one there for everyone so we can see exactly how it looks, so I can obviously do that myself, but there's also been triggered by two people on there as well, but it gives you a flavour of the replays that you can see. So if there was an overtaking manoeuvre we wanted to get a particular look at again, you guys at home following this tonight can have your say and trigger the replays. But apart from that, I'm excited. If there's people in the chat you guys want us to focus on during qualifying or even during the race, if there's a little bit of downtime, just pop their name in the chat. We can make sure we get across them in the camera. But with me and Jimmy with you for the whole race this evening, it should be hotting up for another exciting race here, live on Twitch with the Noob Gamers. So, who are we going to jump on board with now, Jimmy?
Well, we're currently on board with Sin. Let's just find somebody who's about to cross the line. Okay, Mr. Salt then looks like he's about to come over the start finish for his first lap. So let's watch Mr. Salt now. See what time he can put down. He's in the Renault Megane, a nice yellow colour with red detailing on. I like these cars. I like the way they look. I like the way they handle. So he's just taken that first sharp hairpin that I spoke about earlier on, and he's making good progress up this straight now, into this long sweeping left. And if we just bring up his speedo here, let me talk you through the speedo. So the big number at the bottom is obviously the speed they're traveling at. Above that you'll see the RPM, so that's how fast, that's the RPM, the revs of the car, and that's also indicated by the long white bar that goes around the outside of the speedo. You'll see either side of the gear, which is the number in the middle, currently in fourth. I expect him to drop it down into second, first here coming through, and then back out second, third, and then fourth for this corner. You'll see to the right hand side of that a green bar going up and down. That's Mr. Salt's acceleration. That's how hard he's pressing his accelerator pedal. And then to the left of the gear you'll see a red bar go up. That'll be his brake. So he's flat out here. He's in sixth gear. He's going as fast as he can, probably reach 135 before he's hard on the brakes here, almost full braking, back on the accelerator, back on the brakes, back on the accelerator coming out here. So it's quite interesting to keep an eye on those. So as he comes through now, there's a straight up here, and he'll just come through into this long sweeping right hand bend. This is the one I talked about. It goes right, there's a bit of a straight, and then it goes right again. So here you are, and here's it going right again. Now sharp left here, this is interesting. Really tight, hard on the brakes there. He took that well. Long straight here, flat out now all the way through. He wants to get those gear changes nice and slick. He doesn't want to miss those gear changes, and he's going to come through and put his first time in now. And he's put down
not bad
1:53.8 for 8th place.
Tight.
Not bad.
Not bad. So there we go. There's another good analysis from Jimmy H Official talking us through the track. But it would be remiss of me to not let you guys at home know a few of the basics that we should be seeing tonight and how this race is set up. So first things first, we've got accelerated tyre wear. So that should mean more pit stops. There is one mandatory pit stop for all our races to contend with this evening. But with the accelerated tyre wear, depending on the way you're driving, if you find yourself off the track, lots of different things could happen. We may require more than one. We've also got weather to contend with this evening. We're starting the race with heavy cloud. However, from that point onwards for the rest of the race, there's 3 random slots of weather which could throw up anything. So we could have rain, we could have sun, who knows, we could have some fog. It's going to be a surprise for all of us, but especially for the races at home. And I'm also told, I've been given a little birdie's told me that apparently the BMWs are slightly quicker off the line. So we could see, especially going down the first straight from the race start, the BMW's just having a tiny little bit of advantage in terms of that acceleration off the floor. So we could see in the first few corners the BMW's faring really well off the straights. So there we go. There's a little bit of information for you there, people at home. But Jimmy, looking at the time so far, have you got any changes on who you're going to go for the first place finish?
No, but I'm quite tempted to back Team BMW, having a small collection of BMWs myself. I am partial to a BMW. You're right, they'll be faster off the line, faster down the straights, faster in the corners, faster through the pits, faster tyre chains, faster fueling, generally faster, better, quicker, more well built. We're on board with Trev here now. Now, interestingly, if you look at Trevor's speedo, which is up on screen now on the right hand side of your screen, to the left of his gear system, you'll see the fuel, exactly the same as what you'd have in your car at home. 7.1 is the amount of gallons, am I right, he's got left in the car. Now the drivers can decide how much fuel they start with. they can decide how much fuel they get given when they pit, and they can set different pit parameters. So for example, they might decide to call their pit crew out to pull in to just give them a couple of laps worth of fuel. They might decide to call their pit crew out to pull in and fix all the damage, replace all the tyres and fill the tank back up. Now, obviously, the more the pit crew do, the longer it takes in the garage. So the drivers need to think about some of their pit strategies during this, and particularly how much fuel they're going to start with. So Trevor Hunt there now has gone from 7.1 to 6.4, sorry, in about half a lap, something like that. So we might be looking at 1.4 gallons per lap, something like that.
Quick maths.
I don't know, is it? Maybe.
I guess it also depends on how you drive, though. You know, if you're hammering it around all the corners, trying to really push it, naturally you're going to use more fuel. Whereas if you're a little bit more conservative, trying to stay on the track, you'll obviously lose less. But as you said, those pit stops are going to be absolutely crucial, because you could just top up with fuel, you could go for new tyres, you could fix all the damage. There's so many parameters the racers have got to decide between that, if the race is going to be broken down by just a few seconds, those times in the pits could be crucial, Jimmy.
Exactly, and they mustn't forget to call their pit crew out. You can just pull into the pits and have your pit crew do whatever your default pit strategy is. The only problem with that, you get into your pits, the crew's not expecting you, they're not there, so they come running out, have to prepare themselves, and that increases the crew's chance of making a mistake, which in turn will just slow you down even more. So the guys mustn't forget to call their pit crew out. And on their steering wheels, they have, I think they've probably got 30 different buttons across their steering wheels which they can use. So they'd have pre-programmed one of their buttons to call their pit crew out. It will pop up a little menu on their screen, and it will allow them to select which pit strategy they want. So they must remember to call the pit crew out, and when they do, the pit crew will be there in the pits ready to receive them. They must stop in the designated pit area. The crew will carry out their work, and then they can carry on driving. They can't drive when the pit crew are out, and they must keep their pit limiter on.
Loads to contend with. So it's not just, ladies and gentlemen, plugging in your wheel and away you go. Obviously we don't have any assists on tonight, so the basic controlling of the car is that much harder than just picking up a controller and buzzing around the track at will. There's pits to contend with, there's tyre wear to contend with, there's going to be weather to contend with. Not only that, they've also got 25 other cars on the track also to contend with. So really, from a racer's perspective right now, the pressure is going to be built up on them. And of course, they're live across the World Wide Web here with us live on Twitch. And once again, thank you for tuning in at home. It's really good to see the numbers of viewers. Every week we do this, slowly creeping up. So again, your support is very much welcome. So while we're in qualifying here, it's just over 4 minutes left remaining. If you are joining us live here on Twitch, and there is a particular racer you want us to jump on board with, drop the name in the chat, and we can ask the broadcasting crew to switch to their camera and see what they're all about. But it should be amazing. I mean, the first few corners, I've never been involved in a race with this many cars going around the track at the same time, all around the first few corners, and I can only guess, if we get through the first few corners without any sort of crashing at all, there must be a miracle.
Absolutely right. We're coming on board with T-Mac. T-Mac put in a 1:52.652. Very, very quick time there, and just behind him is Drux with a 1:51.736. So he's T-Mac's putting in a quick time here now. Let's just see what he puts in now, coming up over the start finish. He's still on a 1:51.6. We're going to I know, we're going to follow T-Mac round for this lap. He's going to be super warm. There's 3 minutes left of qualifying. For him now, he does really need to push here, because Drux is not far off his tail really, and again not too far behind, half a second behind is Area Motorsport. So 1, 2 and 3 is quite close at the minute. We'll keep following T-Mac around the track. We'll put the map on just so you can see at home where he's going, which corners he's on. What you should see is some of these cars in front of him let him pass because he's probably on a hot lamp. a hot lap, excuse me. It would be unfortunate if he was on a hot lamp. Now there's some heartbreaking there. So T-Mac's just thrown this lap, which is unfortunate, but he's still got a relatively quick time there. Let's go on board with Drux, who's currently in a tyre wall and brought himself into the pits. If there's anyone at home, thanks for tuning in. We can see you here. It's Jimmy H official here, co-commentating with Ryan. If there's anybody you want to see, let's have a look. Roughneck One, we're on board with him now. He's in one of the BMWs. Now, interestingly, we were talking about the speed at which the drivers go will obviously affect the amount of fuel depletion there is, but it will also put extra wear on the tyres. So they need to think about, as this is an endurance race, are they going to hit it hard as they can for as long as they can, come in, pit, fix, regen, go back out, hit it for as hard as they can, or are they kind of going to go a bit slow and steady and maybe miss out a pit stop in the hope that somebody else will take two? I know what my strategy would be, Ryan. What would you do if you were racing?
I mean, I would always look to try and get the fastest laps down, so I'd be going as light as possible, and I'd be taking the hit in the pits just to refuel up and get going again. You know, I'd rather be out on the track and be going as quick as I can, as opposed to playing the long game, I guess, where you fuel up really good and try and stay out on the track as long as possible. I think that could work for some people, but with the amount of cars out there today, I think getting out there hard, quick, fast, early doors, even if then towards the back end of the race you whack the fuel up and then you try and stay out. But I think early doors, the lighter cars with the less fuel, just to get that advantage. If you can get yourself away from the pack of 26 cars this evening and have a bit of free road in front of you and behind you, I think it could make a massive difference to your overall place, because you don't want to get bogged down in the middle of the pack with cars left, right and centre around you. As you said earlier, touring cars, you do see contact into corners and even on the straights. So if you get caught up in a massive pack of cars for a long majority of the race, it almost pales into significance what tactics you're going for, because there might just be no way through. Whereas, if you go for the light option, speedy around the corners, a little bit extra manoeuvrability, easy for me to say, and a bit of extra acceleration, I think that could be the difference, just to give you that breathing space during the race to make sure you finish higher up the grid. That'll be my tactics anyway.
Yeah, good tactics. I think that for me, I'm a slower driver. I'm never as quick as some of these guys. I'm really inexperienced when it comes to racing sims anyway. One thing I have learned over the past couple of months is that I'm quite good at avoiding knocks and any carnage. I was racing in a race last week. There was big crashes. We were racing Monza, quick track, that first horrible chicane. And I was fortunate enough to be able to cut through the whole pack. I started almost at the back of the grid, not quite. There was a big crash, and I managed to cut through all of the carnage. I did take a knock, which took me off the track a bit. Slow and steady, brought myself back on, and ended up finishing mid-table 7th, something like that, which I was quite pleased with. Now, what drivers do need to be careful of is not trying to be too desperate to get back on the track if they end up on the grass. This is horrible stuff. So you end up on the grass and you think, God, I need to get back on the track. Putting your foot down as quick as you can ain't going to help you in any way. You have to get slow and steady. There's a crash there.
See a crash. Evidence gets flipped.
Goodness me.
Now, Evidence currently in 6th place, but he's completely lost it there. We're not sure who he's crashed with, but with qualifying only, I can only imagine he was coming in for his last little bit of the lap to try and push those times. So he'll be unhappy with that. So yeah,
just got to make sure Mark replay if you want to see that again.
Replays, let's get one triggered ourselves anyway, so we can get that.
There's a small red bar in the bottom left-hand corner, the bottom left-hand corner of your screen there, just to the right of Ryan, Ryan's right-hand shoulder, your left. You'll get a hashtag replay. There we go. There's 3, and the bar's full. And what you should see now is the replay pop up.
So we're just seeing Evidence go around the corner. It's this little corner here. He just goes onto the apex, gets a little bit wobbly, and the car comes across and just smashes him off the track. So yeah, unbelievable.
So here are the standings then. T-Mac is in pole position with Drux 2nd, Area Motorsport 3rd, Bibby 4th, Jimmy 5th, Evidence 6th, and Azita 7th, with everyone else following behind.
Have you got the full standings there? I'm not sure if we get the option to see the full standings over the top now or not.
I can see up. I can see all the way up to 26. I think you can only see up to 16.
16. I didn't know whether there was an option to flash the whole lot on the screen while we're mid-race here. But here we go, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the first straight. The cars are lined up. The engines will be revving shortly. As soon as the racers are allowed to get their engines going, you'll certainly start to hear it. But we're about to see 26 touring cars fly around the Snetterton track for a whole hour-long endurance race. I'm excited. You guys should be excited at home. I imagine Jimmy H. Official, who's in my commentary box this evening, is also excited, as we're here live on Twitch with the Noob Gamers, bringing you what should be another entertaining spectacle for your evening's entertainment on a Sunday. So here we go, Jimmy. Excitement builds. The race is on.
Excitement builds. It looks like everybody's pretty much loaded in. Evidence here, one to look out for. T-Mac, one to look out for. Mr. Salt started back in 12th. Again, good racer, perhaps one to look out for. And fans' favourite Roughneck 1 started at the back of the grid. But don't worry about that. This is an endurance race. There could be big damage, big smashes, and he could cut his way through the pack. So I'm excited to see what's going to happen there. Bob Hump 3, part of the team Double Hump. I know there's some fans in tonight. So let's go on board. It's difficult with this camera angle. Ryan, any suggestions?
So I'm going to suggest if we stay on there we go.
Here we go.
Ready. I reckon get on one of the cars at the front, maybe second or third place. We'll go trackside and just see what happens. I think that's probably the best we can do. So here we go, ladies and gentlemen, and we're off for race on a Sunday. A whole hour's worth of enjoyment as the cars make their way to the first corner. Now, as we saw during qualifying and practice, you don't necessarily need too much braking here. You can almost go full throttle as everyone flies around there as we're keeping up with the pack on board of Area Motorsport. But this is the corner where it's going to get interesting. We have lost someone there at the back of the pack.
They're three abreast here.
Corner. Here we go. And it's clean so far. Have we got any smashes towards the back? No. So far, really clean there from everyone racing around those corners, Jimmy. That was a surprise.
Big surprise there. They're still coming through fast. What that's going to do now is, with the little knocks there, is going to give the boys some confidence now coming into some of these next corners. Let's put this map up just so you can see. This is a sharp left hairpin here. We're going to jump on board with somebody a bit further back. Let's jump on board with Sin, and we'll go back here. So we're on board now with Sin, and that's going to give us an overview of some of the cars ahead as they come down this relatively short straight into a sharpish left-hand turn. There's going to be some heavy braking, and then a right-hand turn here with a straight, and then a long sweeping right-hand. And after this is a long straight. So this long straight coming up now is a good opportunity for some of the boys to make up some of their times if they've lost a few positions. So we noticed T-Max dropped back into second place. Motorsports dropped back into fourth, and Drux has come through into pole position. And he currently only has a very short lead against T-Mac here. So close battle. Let's stay on board with these two, Ryan.
Yeah, so T-Mac here pushing into the corner. He's trying to get the inside line here on Drux, but Drux is coping really, really well to fight off the challenge from T-Mac around that bend. Just add the pace to keep him at bay. And as Drux gets the inside line with T-Mac closely followed behind, as Jimmy said, with just a few hundredths of a second split them down this home straight now. Who's going to have the extra little bit of pace to overtake here into this first corner as they go full throttle down this home straight? And here comes the right bend. We won't see too much brakes here as they just have a little touch, as you can see. T-Max pushing hard. He's still fighting really hard to get the inside. Is he going to make a move here? I don't think he's quite got the pace to do it. No, he hasn't. Drux again, really solid driving from him to fend off the tax with T-Mac pushing hard again. So I can feel this battle dragging on and on and on. Although it's exciting now, we've got a whole hour long of this. So if you're at the front position here as Drux is, he's got to keep his concentration for 57 minutes more, Jimmy.
Absolutely, and it looks like there's something. Sin just seems to be sat in the grass. I'm not sure what's happened there.
We can only apologise there for the problems that we had. There appears to be some issues with the software that we're using this morning, so there might have been outages across the Twitch world. with the same people using the same software we are, but we've got our technical engineers, i.e. me and Jimmy, on the case, and we fixed it, and we're live again with still 48 minutes remaining of this race. So luckily, it wasn't a sprint race this evening, Jimmy. When
T-Max just cut inside Druk. There's a big race on for 1-2. I'm sorry to interrupt you, Ryan. These boys have been racing hard. There's been less than a hundredth of a second, and it looks like T-Mac has finally just taken the edge. But they're coming up tight now, and it looks like Drux is really close. There's a little nudge there. Oh my God! T-Mac's done really well to hold on. Drux looks like he's just slowing up slightly there. Let's go on board with Drux just to see how close he is there. That was a fantastic move by T-Mac. He was pushing, he was concentrating, he was slow and steady. He was braking at the right time, he was driving safe, and he just seized the opportunity to take first place. It was an exceptional manoeuvre there. They're coming down now, and there's another. It's still a close battle for 1-2. This is a really exciting race at the top of the grid here. Area Motorsport now has dropped a couple of seconds behind, so 1 and 2, definite big race on. And if we just go back, drop down a bit more, if you don't mind, looking at 9 and 10, we've got the Mazda in 10th position, and it looks like Bob Hump 3 is not too far behind, and earlier there was a small battle between those two. I'm sorry about the outage in the stream. Ryan, back over to you. I just wanted to get in there between 1 and 2.
Yeah, good to know. So yeah, we have fixed the stream. We should be live again. If you can hear us, please let us know in the chat. So 46 minutes remaining of the race. T-Max currently in first position, slowly pulling ahead from second place, but looking down the rest of the field, Jimmy, there's some really good battles. It looks like Bob's just taken 9th from 10th there, but I think we're going to have these battles all up and down the grid for the remainder of the 45 minutes, which is going to give us a lot on our hands to contend with.
Exactly, so they're only 15 minutes in. I imagine T-Mac and Druk's hands are a bit sweaty already after that. They've got another 45 minutes to hang on in there. It's a long old time to race for an hour. I don't think it's hard to appreciate really, but it is a long old time for them to be racing, especially with close battles like that. We're just moving down to 6th and 5th now. We're just going to go on board with Bibby for a lap or two, as he's making some fairly quick progress on 5th place by the looks of it. I'm just trying to see who's in 5th place. I think it's Seb H.
Yeah, really tight manoeuvre there from Bibby, just 400 per second, and the car in front has lost it, which gives Bibby the opportunity to snap up that position with ease. Didn't even have to try in the end, because the door was opened up from a mistake in front, and that's what can happen during this endurance race. They've got to concentrate for the full hour, otherwise places are going to be lost up just as easy as that, and Bibby was able to take full advantage there. Didn't even really need to push, just had to take the corner as normal, and grabs himself a place up the grid. So that just shows the sort of concentration errors that could happen tonight, with places being dropped left, right and centre. As we're on board now with Rob 3, who's just been overtaken. Yeah. We're hearing on the chat he seems to have some engine damage, so I imagine he's going to try and make his way to the pits, Jimmy.
Yeah, it looks like Rob 3's taken some engine damage, which is a shame. Rob 3's a quick driver. You'd expect him to be kind of in the top of the pack. You can see him creeping around there. We expect him to pit now, so here's a good opportunity. He's not pitted, interestingly. Okay. He seems to just continue to poodle his way around. He's not particularly slow, but he is slower than we would expect. Rolfie87 on the chat, giving us the heads up that
just
Rob
about to
has
be
got
taken
some
on the
engine
inside
damage.
here. I think he might lose a position again just from that lack of pace. The lack of pace must be coming from somewhere, but again he's given up an easy position again there. So although yes, he does look a little bit slower on the surface, we should have expected him to pit and maybe sort that out, but maybe he's going for the long haul, as this is an endurance race. And he's just going to wait till he needs to do more work on the car, as opposed to going in for pitting just for the damage perhaps.
Yeah, absolutely. Rolfie's on the chat there. I think he's probably communicating with Rob 3 somehow in game. Looks like there's 30% engine damage there, and Crichton, thanks for joining us this evening, Crichton. suggesting that maybe he's going to hold on until he needs tyres. Not a bad shout.
As we just saw there, Jimmy, the guy who overtook Rob, I mean, I don't know who it is because we're trying to get all the names, has just flown straight off the track ahead of Rob, which again gave Rob the easy pass. So, you know, as we said, although he's got the damage, if you can just keep it on the track for a good length of time during this endurance race, actually, the places are just given up to you really easily.
Yeah, exactly right. I think that...
although again, look, Rob's off the track and gives up the place straight back again. So, I mean, it's really going to be a battle for these people, especially if they've got damage on the car, to know when
he might lose
be
2 places here. Yeah, there's the second place, who's actually gone from 17th to 15th back to 17th. Crichton suggested on chat there that he is in fact just going to... There's going to be a nudge here. Oh, he did well. Hard brakes by Rob. I just thought he was going to clip the rear end of Rugg there. Now he's pitting, so let's just watch Rob and just see what... just see how he pits this. And what you should see now, hopefully, is his crew should be out. There's his crew waiting for him there. You'll see the guy run across, put the sign in front. He must come to a complete stop now before they start their work. So it looks like there's no tyres. This just looks like a damage repair, Ryan. I can't see any tyres and I can't see any fuel. No, there are tyres waiting.
So yeah, as you said, it doesn't look like he's doing the full works. I think he's just going to concentrate on the damage that he has received, because it was obviously holding him back during the race, and you know, he's given up easy places just from that damage. Because it is an endurance race, he's obviously decided to get that done early doors to make sure he can continue at a decent pace here. But once again, thank you for sticking with us here on Twitch. Because we did have an outage just caused by the servers, which was unfortunate, which I imagine was experienced by a whole host of Twitch streamers using the same service as us this evening. But thank you for sticking with us during those outages, and we have still got 41 minutes of racing as well as the post-race analysis to come. So stay tuned in here with us live on Twitch as we bring you another Sunday stream here. There's obviously some big works going on from Rob here.
We're just going to finish the pits. This is a long pit. It looks like they're fixing the engine damage. Petrolhead on chat, thanks for tuning in this evening. How many pit stops will they need? That's a good question. This is an hour-long race. Now, it depends on the driver's setup. We were talking a bit about this a little bit at qualifying and in the practice. You'd expect at least 1 pit, and I think that depending on if there are any knocks, tyre wear, how fast they're driving, maybe 2 pits. You're definitely going to see 1 pit stop. This is a long pit stop from Rob. He's way behind now. He's going to have some work to do to catch up on that. I don't want to move away from him, but I do just want to jump to 4th, because there's a small battle on here between Jimmy and Area Motorsport for 3rd place. The gap has spread a bit since I decided to switch over here, but let's just stick on with Jimmy for a bit, and let's just watch him go round. He's in 4th. I think he's creeped his way up the pack a bit, pushing on Area Motorsport now. He's just under a second behind, but as we know, all it takes is for Area Motorsport to, hold the brakes down too long, or take a sharp angle on a corner, hit one of those horrible bumps across the apex there. They're absolutely massive. You clip a wheel on that and you're doing some suspension damage. Jimmy's also carrying a penalty. We don't know what that's for, but on your screen you'll see some red markers next to people. Position 4, position 7, 9, 12 and 15 all have penalties, so they could be for cutting the track or unfairly taking positions or anything like that. So that'll add a few seconds onto their time at the end of the race, which will change the final positions. Yeah,
so we're still on board here with Jimmy. The race was hot on up between the two. We nearly got down to just 500ths of a second between the both of them, but the gap is starting to creep ahead now as Area Motorsport does make some really good gains. We're up to over a second mark now, so it looks like Area Motorsport is keeping that gap nice and steady between them, and it's only going to take a mistake to let him in. But it looks like around 7th, 8th and 9th, there's some really close battles going on there, Jimmy, between Evidence and people lower down the track. I wonder if we can just see what's going on there as Roy Klops, currently in 8th place, is trying to make that push on 7th.
Yeah, it looks like there's a push there, 8th onto 7th, but also Evidence pushing 9th onto 8th is interesting. Now, Evidence was really close, but he did just take a wide corner there. Let's go into cockpit view with Evidence. Now, this is exactly what the drivers will see. So as you can see, it's reduced visibility. There's a blind bit there. Left-hand corner is blind. He can't see where he's going. He's got the pillars, he's got the roll cage. There's not a huge amount of visibility. The sun glaring through the windscreen, that's going to cause issues as well. But there's a spin. It looks like number 7th gone. That means Evidence moves up to 8th. Roy moves up to 7th. And Evidence has made a really good push there on Roy. Now, as he just pushes up now, he's just a few hundredths of a second behind. This is a really close race between 8th and 7th. Now, it's worth bearing in mind that points here are scored in the top 10, I believe. Or top 13 on 26 races, I can't quite remember. However, so you definitely need to be top 10 for points, so anywhere between kind of 10 and 7. Oh, there's a couple of big bumps there, but they've somehow managed to stay on the track. That big curb on the apex there is horrible. You don't want to be hitting that too many times.
Exactly. So as much as I hate to bring it up, Jimmy, there are no points at stake this evening, remember, because these are just one-off Sunday events as we warm up for the series that's going to hit in January. As someone pulls over, I wonder whether that's a back marker. Made that pull over really, really easily, and Evidence and Roy Klops make their way past that car with ease as they hit down the home straight here. But Evidence is pushing hard, just 300ths of a second split them at the moment, and I wonder whether these next few bends he's going to try and take an attack. We know the little bit of light touching on the brakes is needed there into the first corner, but it's the second corner where people can attack. Is he going to be brave and go late on the brakes and try and take underneath? But no, it's great driving in from Roy Klops, just keeping it nice and steady around, but Evidence is hot on his tail, Jimmy.
Absolutely, yeah. We're just going to move to bonnet cam of Evidence here now, and this is going to really show you quite how close the drivers get. And it looks like there's a small mistake there from 7th. Either that, or I think it might be some server lag. Actually, it looked like it's server lag. It looked like he was going wide. On board here with Roy Klops, just back on board with Evidence as he gains a few milliseconds on Roy on that corner there. So the corners are really where it's won. And lost. We were just talking then about the back marker. We noticed the driver move over to the side to let these other racers through. Now that's because these races are a lot quicker. So if you're being lapped, the drivers will see a blue flag come up on their screen, and that will essentially say there's a faster car behind you. You must let them through. If you don't let them through, then you'll receive penalties for that. So it's also good sportsmanship just to move aside, let them go through. They're a lot quicker than you, which is exactly what we saw just then. But it looks like Roy just lost the back end slightly there, and he's taken a wide angle there. So is Evidence. So really, both of these boys are making very minor mistakes at the same time, which has kind of kept them distance apart. But we see Roy just creeping ahead a bit now. He's about half a second ahead. The sun glare there going into that long right, into the sharp left, isn't going to help. Back into the sun as the sun goes down. Now don't forget, we've got 3 random weather slots here. This is an hour-long race, and we're almost exactly a third into that race with 34 minutes remaining. I beg your pardon, we're almost a half into that. So we may see some weather changes here, Ryan, and I don't know how that's going to change the dynamics of the race.
Exactly as you say. I mean, we could get some rain, it could just be fog, or it might just stay clear for the entire race. We really won't know until that weather hits. We don't get any warning here in the commentary box. The racers will get no warning from their pit crew or any of their team. So the rain could just suddenly hit out of nowhere following these bright blue skies we can see as Evidence continues to push Roy Klops into these next few corners. But Roy Klops is holding that distance between them really, really well at the moment, with both racers having made tiny little mistakes, but unfortunately neither one's been able to capitalise on any mistakes so far as they continue to push around these corners. So I wonder how long this battle will last, and is it just a matter of time before one of them makes a catastrophic error, or will this race between the two of them just go on and on and on for the rest of the race? But there's only one way to find out, and that's by us keeping on board with the list. As we jumped on board with Bibby now, he looks like he's making really good gains on 4th place here. He's pushing hard. We're less than 500ths of a second between them as Bibby really drives into these corners to try and catch up some time, and he does so again under the 400th of a second mark now, and with things flicking. And Evidence again, he's pushing as well into his position. So we've got races going up and down the track here, left, right and centre, and it is going to be work on our hands, Jimmy, to keep on top of it all.
Yeah, absolutely. I think Bibby's closing on Jim there, but interestingly, Jim's also closing on Area Motorsport. Now, despite there being a couple of seconds between fourth and third, we're on board with fifth. Despite there being a couple of seconds between fourth and fifth, the gap is slowly closing. But as we're on board now with Bibby, he's really closing that gap onto Jimmy in fourth place. He's pushing for fourth. There's really not a huge amount between them, a couple of hundredths of a second. This is really, really close, and all it's going to take is for a minor mistake between one of these two to really change that. So it looks like Bibb has just put in the best lap delta there, which means that section is the fastest he's ever done. So we'll just move on to the front of Bibby's car now, and you can watch it. As you can see, it looks like the sun's setting, moving into the evening. That sun glare is going to cause a couple of issues, but Bibb is really pushing now, and we might see a manoeuvre happen shortly. This is that sharp right, then there's a bit of a straight, then another sweeping right. So here's the straight now. He might decide to make a move here.
So yeah, Bibby's pushing harder. We're less than 300 per second as he pushes out wide. Can we see a manoeuvre? And now on the chat, can I just confirm, Jimmy, obviously I can only see the top 60 places on my screen here. You've obviously got the full view of all the standings. Have we lost any drivers this evening?
Yes, we've lost 3 drivers by the looks of it. 3 or 4 drivers. It looks like Mad.
Here we go. Sorry to interrupt you, but it looks like we're going to have a pass here. Oh no, not quite. Bibby didn't quite have the pace to go on the inside, and it was a fantastic drive from Jimmy there to keep him at bay. Just a slight move across, and Bibby had to put the brakes on just to stop going into the back and causing a major incident.
Yeah, that is really good racing, but really good racing by Bibby. He could have just kept the pedal down there. What would have happened though is more than likely he'd have just clipped that. Could we just get a replay of that up on the screen? He'd have more than likely just clipped that rear right wheel of Jim, and that would have sent them both spinning, which would be really bad, especially up here. So Bibby did really well to just touch the brakes and lay off and just give the position back there. I don't know if we've got a replay on your screen, but hopefully
for you now, Jimmy, so we can see the replay coming up. So here's the corner where he starts attacking here. So we know he had the pace, we know he was pushing hard, so Bibby pushing really, really well here as he goes up this straight here. And I think it's the next corner where the opportunity arises. He just has to push on the brakes, but let's see how the replay fares us. We might have just missed it on the replay actually.
I think we've just missed it on the replay there.
Need to be a bit quicker on those replays. So much going on here to keep on top of, but we will do our best to continue with all these races as we go. As we've jumped on board with Drux in second place, who finds himself nearly 2 seconds behind T-Mac now, but 2 seconds after mistakes are made is not a lot and could easily be caught up if T-Max lets something slip, Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. Now T-Mac's got, like you say, a 2 second lead on Drux, who's got a 5 second lead on Area Motorsport. So the race is just cooling down slightly for 1, 2 and 3. There's still a battle for 4th and 5th. 6th and 7th, there's a 4 second gap. 8th and 9th is a 2 second gap. And then 10th is 5 seconds behind 10th is 5 seconds behind 9th. So as you can see now, halfway through the race, the gaps start opening up and the pack starts splitting a bit, and we'll see less group battles and more kind of one-to-one battles. I'm just going to jump back on board here with Bibby. As you can see now, him just coming across there through the horizon. You'll see him in a second now. He's neck and neck here with Jim down this straight. There's nothing in it. There's absolutely nothing in it there. Bibby is still just clinging on 4th there. Jim is dropped down into 5th. He's wide as he comes round this corner. Jim is on the inside of him. Let's jump on board with Jimmy now and get a good view of Bibby. So Jim is actually just fallen back there to 5th. I believe he was in 4th. And Bibbs just locked the brakes up there, which gives Jimmy an opportunity to squeeze a few hundredths of a second out of the gap there. Now here's a long sweeping left-hand corner coming up here. The driver's just a touch on the brakes, and they'll be pushing around this in kind of 3rd, 4th gear, looking for 90 miles an hour when they come out of it if they can. And now coming up here there, but you'll see firm on the brakes at probably the 2nd marker there, hard on the brakes, and he comes round now. This is a very tight left-hand corner, but you want to be on the accelerator now, hard and fast. Coming up 2nd up through the gears into 3rd there, 85, 90 miles an hour into 4th gear. Touch on the brakes left round here. Not much in the way of change of speed or gear, just a little touch on the brakes. Instead of touching on the brakes, what some of the drivers also do is just let off the accelerator really quick, and that just makes the nose of the car dip slightly, which in turn slows the vehicle down. So there's a right hand here. Now this is a long straight. We're on board with Jimmy 5th place, trying to close the gap on 4th place, which I believe he's just given up to Bibby. Long straight here, there's not much between them really, 400ths of a second, 600ths of a second, something like that. Sharp right hand corner here as they come through the last couple of corners. Now this long sweeping right, we'd expect to see almost flat out really, 4th gear, 100 miles an hour. We might see them knock it up into 5th round here. They need to touch the brakes just gently as he comes through here, I would expect. No, he's held on there. There's a tiny bit of brakes here now. This is the hard left. He's just taken a nudge there, but Bib is held on well. As we come through now down the home straight, we've almost followed an entire lap with these two races. We're just going to jump on board with Bibby, who I believe is about to go past a back marker here, and we should see this car in front, the green car, move over slowly, as you can see there, just slowing himself down to let Bibby through. But there really is a race on, Ryan, between 5th and 4th.
Exactly, yeah, there's really not much distance between the two of them at the moment. We've seen some really clean racing, however, following that last lap. The braking was really tight. There could have been some crashes, but there was a respect there from both races that if one of them pushed that a little bit too hard, both of them could lose their places. So they were making really sure that they weren't going to make any crucial touches that would take either of them off the track. But we're now on board with Bob Hump 3, who finds himself further down the grid than he'd probably like to, but he's just 500th of a second away from his closest competitor in 17th place. So Bob Hump in 18th place here, just pushing around the corners. It should be nice and steady, but he's obviously had a bit of damage and a few knocks to knock him down the grid, because from Thursday night sessions we know Bob's got it in the locker, and we know he's quick round tracks generally. So we imagine he'd be quite upset with his race position at the moment, but he's going to be pushing hard because he wants to try and get himself further up the pack, as we've seen a whole raft of pit stops go in just over halfway through the race, because there is a mandatory pit stop this evening, so people have to make at least one. But you think, Jimmy, from the conversations that we had with the tyre wear, it's only a matter of time before they need to pit as opposed to they have to pit.
Yeah, absolutely. And the sensible thing for the drivers to do here would be to really hold on before they pit. The mandatory pit stop is kind of a game changer, really. It's a really nice mechanic that the race creators put in here. And we're just watching Bob Hump 3 there really push on to, he's moved up to 40.
I think that was kind of the series of pits, wasn't it? And they've just taken over the people in the pits there, which is good for them.
Exactly. So they'll really want to be holding on before they pit. They want their tyres to be as low as they can be, and they'll also want their fuel to be. Now I'm really sorry. I'm not quite sure what's happened. Here we go. We're on board here with
fog, which might have just kicked in. I wonder.
I think it was a bit of fog. Yeah, let's just go back. Let's have another look. On board with.
So we're on board with Bob, and all of a sudden it all went white.
Bob's gone.
Bob's gone entirely. He's dropped himself from the race.
It looks like Bob's gone entirely.
Bob Hump says that we've got on the chat that his computer has crashed. So unfortunately his game has crashed and he is out of the race entirely, Jimmy, which was a real shock to the system. We lost the camera feed in the studio here, but he's actually now dropped out of the race because of a crash with his computer, which is really unfortunate for him.
That's really unfortunate. There's nothing you can do about that. That's just one of those things, really. But as you notice now, the fog's moving in, which is interesting. So the weather's changing now. Fog's moving in. That's going to change the track temperature slightly. So some of these guys who may have started with soft tyres might prefer this. A slightly colder track, perhaps, means their tyres might last slightly longer. Bob Hump 3, sorry to see you've dropped out of the race there, mate. We're on board at the moment with Area Motorsport. There's nobody currently in the pits. There's now a 5-second gap between Drux in second and T-Mac just stonking away in first. We're on board with him here. He's about 5 seconds ahead of second. Let's move a bit further down the pack now. To Roughneck 1. I know there's a small fan party for Roughneck 1 Ryan in the in the chat there. He's
Yeah.
driving the BMW M Sport there. That looks like a BMW E90 to me. Excellent cars, very well made.
Now, we will just say, you know, we have lost Bob Humphrey. He has gracefully given us the opportunity to jump in to the chat with him to find out exactly what happened and to get his thoughts on it. So let's jump straight into the Double Hump channel and see if we can bring him in here and have a little chat. So Jimmy, if you would like to join me, we'll make our way into the Double Hump channel and have a little chat with Bob about the experiences he's just had. Good evening, Double Humps.
Hello.
How are you both? So Bob, unfortunately we've lost you there during the race because of a computer crash. It must be absolutely gutting for you. Is he there? He wants the interview and he's not even there. So Jimmy's joined the chat, but I don't think we've got Bob here. I don't think Bob has his headset on, Jimmy, so we might have to jump back in. He offered us the opportunity to go in and give him something, but no. Fortunately we couldn't get Bob there, everyone. He did give us the opportunity to jump in, but maybe his headset's not plugged out, or maybe he threw it against the wall in rage because of the errors that he's having. But he might just be restarting perhaps, but we'll just have to continue with the race, Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. So still a race on, still a bit of a battle here now. Jimmy in 4th place, pushing Bibby now, who's moved up into 3rd place. There's about half a second between 4th and 5th at the moment, watching Bibby. Now, Area Motorsport has decided to pit. This is going to be a really interesting pit. He's in 5th place. I think this is his first pit. My guess is this is a mandatory pit. We'll expect tyres. Here come the front tyres done, and there's a tiny bit of fuel gone in there, so his fuel looks okay. He's currently got 24 litres of fuel. It looks like there's some damage repair as well. Now, you can see him dropping down positions here. He came into the pits in 5th. Let's see how he leaves the pits. He's currently in 8th, but there is 9th position creeping up behind him. Now, this is going to be an interesting exit. The fog's here, and he's come out the pits in 8th. Not a terrible pit stop. I think he'll probably be pleased with that.
Yeah, not bad at all. There will be people ahead of him who may need to also pit later on during the race, so he might have got a little bit of gain on them for future parts of the race, as the racers have now put their lights on. So we are getting a little bit of darkness and the fog creeping in on this race now, which certainly changes the conditions for everyone. As we've seen earlier on in the stream, the cockpit view that the racers do actually see while they're racing this evening does not show a lot. So we're on the cockpit now of Area Motorsport, and as you can see, you've got limited visibility around you, which is why, Jimmy, it's so easy to not see people coming round behind you.
Yeah, exactly. So what you should see now, hopefully on your screen, if I've correctly removed everything, is exactly what the drivers will see. However, they may still have this on their screen, and to the left of that they might see some information about their brakes, their tyres, their tyre pressures, and their suspension. They'll almost certainly have that. They may also have the map up here. We're unsure about that. What they won't have are these standings, which you can currently see. They'll be turned off, and they probably won't have this thing at the top of their screen because they probably know who they're watching. So let's do. We're just coming around now. We're on board with Area Motorsport. Let's do a full lap on board with Area Motorsport. Now look, the weather has turned for the worse. There's no rain, it's not wet, but it's very foggy and it's dark, which means the drivers will need to put their lights on in order for visibility, increased visibility, and for the drivers. So we're on board. We'll do a full cockpit view, a full lap cockpit view on board with Area Motorsport. Let's see what he can do here.
Yeah, so going around the first bend here, as we said, it's pretty much full throttle. Coming up to the second bend here, it's almost a 180 all the way around. You've really got to get on hard in the brakes, going as slow as 30, 40 miles an hour before coming out of that corner. But especially with the darkness creeping in now, when you're driving your cars at home around normal roads, you normally have both mirrors in view. You've got the rear view mirror, you can see what's going on. Whereas here it's so tight, it's so almost claustrophobic that you really cannot see what's going on around you until someone is right up next to your car. which is where you do get the touches, because it's hard to avoid sometimes unless you're really keenly checking your rear view mirror, which with the concentration needed to keep themselves on the track, it's very unlikely that the drivers this evening will be keeping checks on that. They'll just be concentrating on their own game and almost hoping, Jimmy, that they don't make anyone crash.
Yeah, exactly. Of course, the chaps have got mirrors. They may have a slightly different setup to what we see here. Their seat may be further back. It might be higher, might be lower. They also have a rear view mirror. You can probably see one in the top right-hand corner of your screen there, just above the map. Let me turn the map off. They also may have a second virtual one directly in the middle of their screen, which should give them some increased visibility behind them. But what is difficult to tell when it's dark like this is how close a car is behind you. You can see the headlights, but it's hard to tell how close they are behind you, and it can be quite daunting, especially at night. There is one weather slot left here, so it's dark and very foggy, and with one weather slot left, I think we could probably see anything happen really over the next however long's left. 17 minutes. Just a long old race.
So we do have now he's sorted out a few issues with his computer. I'm led to believe that Bob Humph has joined us in the commentary box here for a quick interview, just to find out what exactly happened with his computer. Are you with us, Bob?
Can you hear me?
We can hear you. I wouldn't say loud and clear, but we can hear you. All I can say, Bob, is it must have been absolutely gutting to have to lead the race in that manner.
Yeah, it was interesting. All of a sudden, the game just stopped, so not a lot you can do. So it kicked me from the server, weirdly, and then I was just sitting on the main menu of the game, so who knows.
Up until that point, we were on board with you watching you. You looked like you were having a fairly steady race, to be honest.
Yeah.
How were you finding it?
Well, I'm just laying in these cars and I'm laying around this track, so it's just the GT3 cars that you see me in during the week is like, that's what I've always done. So coming into these is just like, playing rugby instead of playing football. It was just a different thing altogether.
Yeah, and especially looking on the stream now, Bob, with the weather changes. If you were still racing out there now, how would these weather changes and the darkness and the fog and all the different things we see, how much a difference does it make to your ability to stay on the track?
The fog is actually not so bad until there's someone else around you. As soon as you have someone around you, then you get their foggy lights, and it's quite eerie. I think the darkness isn't part of the weather system. I think it's because there's accelerated time on this server. It's only going to get darker. So good luck with that one, guys.
Oh, interesting. So it'll be dark, fog. Well, could be anything now. One weather spot left.
Hopefully we might get rain. I was quite hoping for rain, to be honest, because I'm quicker than rain and it was dry, so yeah, it would have been better.
How will the rain affect what's going on here? Will we see more pit stops?
You'd have to come in for west, depending on how long's left. So I think there's 15 minutes left. So if it rained now, I'd 100% come in for wet tyres. But if it rained with 5 minutes to go, it really depends how good you are on simply sliding.
Perfect. Well, thanks for joining us in the commentary box, Bob. We can just about hear you, and hopefully the viewers at home have heard what you had to say about the events that happened this evening. But yeah, thank you very much for joining us, and hopefully you enjoyed the rest of the race.
Yeah, catch you soon, guys.
Thank you.
Well done.
So there we go. That was Bob Humph 3 joining us in the commentary box after, unfortunately, his computer crashed mid-race, which left him out of the competition. As we can see the darkness creeping in, Jimmy, the lights are on. We could make for some really interesting racing now. Yeah,
absolutely. The lights are on, and there are most definitely people home, I can tell you that. There's a couple of battles here between Higgs Bosun and Ruggio 994, Italian racer. It's close. They've been kind of swapping and changing a little bit. As it gets darker, it's going to get harder for them to race, and it's going to be a bit more daunting. And like I said, as you see drivers approaching you from behind, those bright lights, we're just going to jump on board now. Bibby, with Bibby, who's pitting here. Bibby was doing well, so here's a pit now from Bibby, I guess he's coming in for mandatory pit, and by the looks of it, a little bit of damage repair and tyres. He's come out, he's done well. It doesn't look like he's going to lose too many places. He might drop down perhaps to 7th as he exits the pit. Let's just see how his exit goes. He's got his pit limit on. He'll take that off any minute now. After this line, pit limit is off, and he puts his foot down now as quick as he can go round this corner. Fresh tyres on here, cold tyres on a cold track at night. It's going to be slip slidey. It's going to be interesting to see how he takes this this lap straight out the pits. We might see him just go a bit slower than normal, get those tyres a little bit warm, and then come back out and get his foot down with 13 minutes remaining. There's a big gap now between 1 and 2. We're on board with Drux, but don't forget, these guys 1 and 2 have still got to pit, so really anything could change.
Yeah, exactly. If they get one of their, pits wrong, use the wrong strategy, maybe do something they don't need to do by accident, it could throw the race up in the air as we jump on board with Evidence here. He's quite a way behind Higgs Boson, but we know the people further up the track still have to pits as we see the standings now. So T-Mac in first, we've got Drux in second, we've got Jimmy in third. Roy Klops has made his way all the way up to 4th place so far, with Area Motorsport in 5th. So yeah, the top 5 are looking pretty good at the moment. There's some decent gaps between them all, although you have to say, of all the places that are under threat at the moment, it is that 5th place position at the moment, Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. 5th and 6th, there's a definite battle on here. We're on board with Area Motorsport, but we have got Don Tittle just creeping up behind and really closing that gap now. There's not a huge amount in it. There's by the looks of my timings here, they do change quite quickly, but 100th of a second, something like that, between 6th and 5th. There's a big knock there over that massive curb, which is painful. So let's just jump on now board with Don Tittle as we follow him round for a lap. I don't know if he's pitted yet, but you'll see him now hopefully trying to close the gap on Area Motorsport, who I am sure has already pitted. Don Tittle here in the BMW, excellent cars, nice and stable, and quicker in the straights, as we know, as he tries to close the gap on 4th. He's taken the corners just slightly wider than Area Motorsport in 4th position, but we're seeing full acceleration down here now, 4th, 5th gear. We'll probably be looking at 125 before he's hard on the brakes for this hard left hairpin, and he wants to accelerate out now. You can see him accelerating out there. He'll move up through the gears, 3rd, 4th. He might even just reach 100 miles an hour before he slows for this left-hand corner, and then straight into another left-hand corner. He's taken that wide. He's gone over the bump there, which has slowed him down slightly. He's going to be trying to make that time up now. He's got to be careful not to cut corners and take any track penalties as he comes around this long sweeping right-hand bend. Just a touch on the brakes is all that's required into a long straight. Now what he wants to do is really try and get as close as he can to 4th position, get that toe as 4th position punches a hole through the air for him to drive in and get in the slipstream of. Once he can get in the slipstream, he should be able to slingshot himself past. You'll see him braking now into this left then right chicane. It's not a particularly awful chicane. The first left is quite quick, and the right's just a little bit slower now. There's a long sweeping right here, and if you look on your map in the top right hand corner, you'll see him come around this long sweeping right hand bend. He'll be hard on the brakes out of here. He's got to be careful not to lock the brakes up as he comes into this sharp left hand corner, but he does want to come off them quickly because he's got a bit of time to catch. The gap now between the two is 3 seconds, so at the start of this lap it was half a second. Area Motorsport has managed to get 3 seconds ahead of him.
Yeah, really good driving there from Area Motorsport. Now, while you were talking there, Jimmy, as we were on board with Don Tittle, there was 2 crucial pit stops that were made. Number 1, 4th place position, Roy Klops jumped himself into the pits and now finds himself in 9th position. However, the crucial pit that we've seen is T-Mac has got himself in the pits. He's done the work he needs to do. He currently finds himself in 3rd position. We assume, I should say, that Jim in 2nd place hasn't taken the opportunity to pit now. But T-Mac out of the pits with whatever changes he's needed to make are now done. So he's going to be pushing hard to catch up 1st place. But we know 1st place position is still yet to pit, I believe. So the race is really on now. If T-Mac can make these gains with the pit setup he's just experienced, we really could see a race for 1st place.
Absolutely. There's only 8 minutes left now, 8.5 minutes left. We know that Drux is still to pit, and we believe that Jim is still to pit. For some reason, my race feed, it isn't giving me a race feed tonight, which is a shame. You guys can't see it at home, but I've got a small display in the bottom right-hand corner of my screen, which tells me kind of everything that's going on, which unfortunately isn't working tonight. But we're on board with T-Mac, and we're going to follow T-Mac round for this lap, because this could be an important lap. You'll see ahead of him one set of tail lights. That's a back marker. That's not anybody ahead of him. That car's actually behind him. So as he gains on that car, we'll see that car pull over. Ahead of that car is another back marker. So the next two cars that he overtakes, in theory, are much slower than him, and are being lapped essentially by T-Mac. So eventually we'll see those cars move over. T-Mac, we know, is an experienced driver. This is kind of his competition here. He likes these cars. I think he likes his track. I don't know about night time. We've not asked him. Don't forget, there's still a slight weather change. So he's coming in now to this sharp left-hand hairpin. You'll see him accelerate now. He should come up second, third gear, and we should see him maybe just touch fourth gear, 100 miles an hour before he brakes into this left-hand corner, which is that slow. It's quite good. This right-hand corner looks tight, but you can just touch the brakes then. He should be hard on the accelerator coming through now. Long sweeping, there he is. And again, a nice long sweeping right-hand corner. We shouldn't really see much braking through there. Full throttle all the way through as he comes fourth gear, 100 miles an hour, moving up into fifth gear. Really quick, really slick gear changes by T-Mac here. And he's reaching 125, 130. We might even see a 135 before he brakes in sixth gear. He's going to drop that right down now into third, probably into second here. You might even see first gear, but he's kept the speed up through there. 77 miles an hour now as he comes along this long sweeping right hand bend at 100 miles an hour in fourth gear. We'll see that speed maintain. He might even touch up into sixth gear before he brakes heavily into this sharp left. Now what you'll see is he's just gone past a back marker there. That blue and yellow car in front of him is also a back marker who's gone wide. He's just put a bit of dirt in the vision of T-Mac here. He's gained a bit of time, but don't forget we've still got first and second Ryan Druick and Jim to pit, so really anything can happen in this exciting race for 1, 2, 3.
You're exactly right. Now, while we were on that hot lap with T-Mac, you can see the time between the two, second place and third, has really been eaten away. It was up to 12-second gap when we first jumped on board with T-Mac, and he's cut the time down to just 8 seconds now. So although we think Jimmy's still got a pit, T-Mac's really eating away at the time to catch him, so we really should see him take second place with ease. It's now just a case of whether he can catch first place, with Drux round the track at the moment with a couple of back markers, it would seem, just behind him. He just had to fight through those to get past. But we think Drux has still got to pit, which, you know, he's leaving it late certainly. There's just 5 minutes left of the race. Now, we're told in the chat, I was told early doors that there was a mandatory pit stop that was required for this race, but there is a rumour going around the chat that it might not be the case, and maybe that setting wasn't actually activated. So maybe Drux doesn't need to pit at all, who knows? There's only one way to find out, and that's by staying live with us here on Noob Gamers Live. But it looks like, Jim, is that one of the back markers trying to fight Drux there for position?
Yeah, I was just looking at it. There's two back markers. So looking at Drux now, just coming into view on your screens there in the green car. I'm sorry the focus is out there. Sack the cameraman. I have no idea what the cameraman's doing. I think he might be drunk.
Oh,
so Drux is coming in for a pit now, so this will be really interesting. He's coming in. He could be taking tyres. He could be taking fuel. There's only 4 minutes left. He's still got 8 gallons of fuel left, so you might not see any fuel go in.
And where's
There's
T-Mac?
no fuel gone in.
Do we know where T-Mac is?
T-Mac's currently third.
Where is he on the track? Is he
That's
gonna
a
come out in
very,
front?
very quick pit stop.
Let's see if we can we jump on board with T-Mac quickly?
On board
just
with
to see
T-Mac
where
now.
he is? I think he's
crossing
gonna
the start
pass.
finish.
Yeah, he's passed.
He's passed. So he's passed Drux now. I've been calling him Druick most of the race. That's someone else altogether. So T-Mac's just snuck into second there. We still got Jim left to pit if there is mandatory pit, and I would expect to see Jim pit at some point. So we're on board there with Drux. But as you were saying just before that, there were a couple of back markers behind him who looked like they were racing him. Now, that's okay, but they do have to be careful, because if a back marker decides to race, especially somebody in second, third, pushing for first, pushing for the win, and they take him out, there's going to be all sorts of problems, and I'm just glad that didn't happen. I think that perhaps had Drux continued, there may have been a battle, and one of those back markers who perhaps maybe a less experienced driver may have taken him out, and that would cause some great upsets. So on board now with T-Mac, who's currently 4-5 seconds ahead of third position, is trying to close down Jim. Let's jump on board with Jim as he comes down this long straight now. In the Renault, we might see him pit here, Ryan. It's unclear whether there's a mandatory pit or not.
Well, I think even if he doesn't pit, I mean, there's still 3 whole minutes remaining, and that time between him and T-Mac has been eaten away once again, and we're nearly under 2 seconds between them. So regardless of whether there's going to be a pit or not, I still feel like T-Mac's got the pace here to catch him. He's also got some race penalties as dictated by the red mark you can see next to their name. So again, we wonder what those race penalties are, which could as well determine the places. So I think T-Mac's in a really comfortable position here as he pushes for that first place, if I can say it correctly, first place spot, with just 1.5 seconds splitting the top 2 positions. So I think it's only a matter of time before T-Mac snaps up first place on the track, regardless of pits and regardless of penalties, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. And as we know, Jim's currently got a penalty which is almost certainly more than 1.5 seconds. I don't think any penalties are that. I think they're 2 seconds minimum. Somebody in chat probably correct me. I don't know, Zita, if you're there, if you know what the if the time minimum time penalty is on this. Bob Hump 3 asking if Jim will fight him. Yeah, I think Jim has no reason not to, really. He's in first position. He doesn't, even with a time penalty, Drux is still in third, so Jim can still finish second, assuming his time penalty is not greater than the gap between first and third, which is 8 seconds. So if Jim can hold on for first, even with his penalty, he could still take second. If he gives up second place to T-Mac, then he may well finish third. I don't know if that makes sense, but it's important for Jim really to hold on and fight T-Mac. I think there's everything to play for. Now, you could argue, T-Mac may argue that as Jim's currently running on a penalty, he's got absolutely no chance of winning it anyway. So as long as Jim doesn't put too much danger onto the racing for first position, then all should be good. Let's go on board with T-Mac now as he's really pushing on Jim there. Now it's almost side by side going into this corner, and they're just following a back marker. We hope that back marker's going to move out the way. He's just plonked himself in the middle of the track. That's unbelievable, and Jim's lost some time there. Really what we should have saw is that white BMW just move over to the side, but T-Mac's closing in nice and tight now on Jim with just 0.03 of a second. Jim's pitted, so interesting. Jim had to pit even with 30 seconds left, so there must be a mandatory pit, otherwise he would just hang on, wouldn't you, Ryan?
Exactly that, yeah. There was absolutely no reason for him not to race T-Mac there. If I was in, you'd think, why not? It's a racing competition after all, so you might as well get stuck in. We are told, some people on the chat, it could either be a mandatory or his penalty might even be a stop and go in the pits. Either way, Jim has needed to pit there, which opened the door for T-Mac. With just 7 seconds remaining in the clock, this is just the last lap now. Surely it's just a procession here from T-Mac, as he currently holds over 9-second lead on Drux. So we're on board with T-Mac, who should, in theory, barring any mistakes, barring any major catastrophes from T-Mac, he should be going comfortably over the line here to win what was a really tough hour-long competition for many, many competitors. But T-Mac making it look easy there. So, I will say congratulations to T-Mac now. I simply cannot see a mistake in him that's going to cause him to drop 10 seconds as he goes around the last few corners. And you must say, Jim, he's made that look easy.
He has made it look easy. Yeah, I think good race by T-Mac. We know he's a good driver. We've seen it before. He's just coming down this long straight now. If I was him, I'd probably just be a bit cautious. There's no need to try and squeeze times out of it. There's no need to kind of try and be a hero. I'd be nice and cautious around here. I don't want any mistakes. I don't want to hit those massive great curbs on the right there. I just want to be nice, slow, steady, cruise over the line for a relatively comfortable victory. Hard at the beginning. There was a big old race, quarter of an hour battle, first and second, just on and on and on. But I think as he comes now into the final corner, you'll see him come down the home straight here to take first place. As he comes now, flashing the headlights there for first place. just to give the fans something to look at. Now, if you don't mind, I'm just going to drop back here between 10th and 9 and 10, because if this was the championship, there would be points available here. Ryan, we're on board with Berserker 013, who's closing on 9th position. It's unclear. No, there's no back markers here. So this race here, 9, 10 and 8, there's only a couple of seconds in it.
Exactly, yeah, just a few seconds in it. However, we do have some penalties on board with 9th and 10th, so we wonder how much a difference they will make. So it could be that 8th place is actually sailing absolutely free to the win without any penalties. However, we will get that confirmed once the race is complete. But it's still important to try and finish in the highest place you can, regardless of the penalties, because of course it's massively important to help out your final podium position. So we're on board with Ruggiero now, who's currently in 9th position. As you can see, Berserker for some reasons dropped all the way back down to 12th position. Maybe it's the race times kicking in early doors. So we've lost one of the competitors there for this close position, with Mr. Salt in 10th, just a tiny little bit behind this pack. But as we are on the final lap, unless there's a major mistake, which we nearly had from the car in front there in Seb H, unless there is a major mistake, I can only see this finishing the way it is. But with just a few corners to go, they've got to hold their nerve here. They've been racing for a very long time, so it could be easy to lose your concentration at this point in the race.
Yeah, absolutely close here between 5th and 6th, but it looks like these guys have just finished. There's some penalties, so these penalties are going to change the board quite heavily at the end. I think almost all the races are finished. We're on board with Roughneck 1, who is just pootling around. I'm not sure if he's taken damage or quite what's going on there. Zach Blue currently sat in the dark. Higgs Boson sat in the pits, hasn't pulled away from the pits, just for some reason not bothered to finish the race there. Trev Hum 3 pootling around, finished the race there. Looks like all of the races are finished, so we're on board now with the leader, T-Mac. Good solid race, and here we are with the final standings.
Exactly, so there we go, there's confirmation. We can see the penalties that are at play that have already been added to these times. So T-Mac takes first position, a big well done to T-Mac. It was an easy race overall with the penalties included. He's won the race by over 17 seconds, which is really good going there. Drux gets himself a silver spoon in second place, with Bibby in third, finishing the podium positions. That gives us our top 3, so congratulations to all 3 of them. Let's look further down the pack. So we've got Jimmy in 4th, Roy Klops in 5th, Don Teeter in 6th, Seb H in 7th, Ruggiero in 8th, 9th is Mr. Salt, and the top 10 is completed by Blast Jimmy.
Yeah, absolutely. Top 10 there, completed by Blast, and that kind of concludes this evening's race. And I think you'll agree it was a couple of good battles, especially for the for kind of the top positions really. So I must say, well done to all drivers. The weather worked in our favour, in the driver's favour, I think. There wasn't anything too hectic, was there, Ryan? No rain or snow or anything?
No,
like that?
Unfortunately, we didn't quite get the weather we were all hoping for at home. It is unfortunate that we also didn't get to see the rest of the standings there. The lobby's obviously in a way where it quickly shoots us out of there. But we did get confirmation of the top 10. So big congratulations to everyone who finished in those places, and commiserations to everyone below that. As Jimmy alluded to earlier in the race, if you're in the top 10 for the majority of races here on Noob Gamers Live, you will normally receive points to the championship. So it's really only the top 10 places that we're looking to confirm. So well done to those guys, and surely some great experience for them there on the Sunday stream, as they had an hour-long race. The concentration levels to continue that throughout must be really strong. And I can only thank everyone for tuning in. Apologies for the technical issues we experienced earlier on in the stream. Unfortunately, that was taken out of our hands from the servers with the software that we were currently using to stream, having a bit of a meltdown. But we managed to get back on board. We hopefully didn't lose too much time for you guys live at home. So thank you for sticking with us. And that was a great race overall. Just gonna have a look at the chat now. So yeah, Bob Hunt 3, nice one. Sexy as always, thank you Bob. Dr. Mortis 78, congratulations. And yes, it was a great race. Azita, who we saw lose their place because of some technical issues, is congratulating all the competitors. And I think you can agree, Jimmy, it was a fantastic race overall. We might have lost Jimmy there. He's obviously having some technical issues as well. So technical issues abound all over the shop this evening. And we've had the stream drop out. We've had people drop out the race. We've had people coming into the commentary box and not even chatting. It's all been going off on the stream. But as we've said many times before, you don't work with children, don't work with animals, and do not work with Project Cars 2 because that's where issues can end up. So once again, thank you for watching at home. We are going to try and get some live reaction with some of the races now. So if you do bear with us, we're going to try and jump in there and see what happens. Hopefully stream chat will let us actually hear what they have to say. So we're going to jump into Muck Smith Racing here and have a chat with T-Mac and Drux, who are luckily both in the same channel. So we'll have a quick chat with them just to see how they got on. So we've jumped straight into the Muck Smith Racing channel this evening, gents. It was a first place position again from T-Mac. T-Mac, you must be delighted with your performance.
Yeah, man, it was a really good race. We've got an honorary Muck Smith racer. Drux is with us. We were just dissecting the race. No, it was the first stint really, where me and Drux were just kind of pulling away, having a good battle. No, it was quality racing from our point of view.
Good. We noticed at the beginning, probably the first quarter of an hour, it was kind of a nose to tail Drux on T-Mac race. Really, that's where most of the viewing was. We watched that. We enjoyed that. How did you think that was going to pan out?
Well, I was hoping. I felt that I think Drux was running a little bit lower downforce. He was quite quick on a straight, so I couldn't really gain. But I kind of recognised I could get him a little bit under braking, so I went for it once and I mucked it up because I then went wide and he got me back. But yeah, I just thought hopefully at one stage I'll just get close enough. It's an hour race. Just stay patient. There'll be a chance, and then I think I got it, and then. Yeah, just crept away for the rest of the race, really.
And it might be a great opportunity if Drux has got his mic turned on. We can just get some reaction to his second place finish there. As T-Mac said, he wasn't quite sure how it was going to pan out. A really good battle from the start. But Drux, second place, how do you feel after that?
Yeah, I mean, the quali lap was actually, I took 4 cents on my previous best lap ever, so it was a pretty good one.
Excellent.
And I know that T-Mac usually, he's not very good at the start, so I was hoping to get P1 at the start. He knows that, so and that's what happened. So my idea was, I know that T-Mac is faster than me, so my idea was to just try to be a blocker for him for as much as possible. And I mean, I made a small mistake on like 50 minutes into the race, and he could pass me, and then he slowly got away. My last hope, because there was no rain, was I wasn't going to change the tires, just stop and go on the pits, was hoping that T-Mac would change the tires, and the gap between us would be good for me to get P1 and try to hold to it. But in the end, that didn't happen. But yeah, I'm pretty happy with P2, and it's exactly where on the ballpark I wanted to be in the end. So yeah, cheers. Congratulations, T-Mac. That's worthy P1 for you.
Cheers, bud.
Good, well done, fantastic. Good racing from both of you. We certainly enjoyed it. Drux, just a quick question there, talking about the weather. Fortunately, the rain held off. There was no snow. There weren't kind of any catastrophic weather conditions, which was good. It got dark pretty quickly, and the fog kind of came down fairly immediately towards kind of the latter third of the race. Notwithstanding the change in weather, did you have a pit strategy going into the race?
Oh yeah, I had a pit strategy for changing all tires, changing only the front tires, changing only to rain and only the front on rain. But in the end, I just decided, I'll just not change the tires at all. The pace is just 1 or 2 seconds slower, so I guess I can risk it
Sure.
on the last stint.
And you held enough fuel from the start of the race. Your fuel lasted. Did you end up with any fuel left in the tank?
1 liter.
Oh.
Yeah.
Well
72 liters, and I ended with 1 liter, so my calculations were correct.
Excellent.
Yeah, really good racing from both of you there. As you said, Drux, happy with second place overall, but it was really good for the people at home and for us in the studio to see that race for first place. So well done to both of you. And hopefully we'll see you again next week for another Sunday edition of Project Cars 2 streaming.
Sounds good to me, mate. Thanks, guys, for doing the stream.
Thanks,
Watch
chat.
it
Thank
back.
No worries.
Thank
Cheers,
you, guys.
lads. We'll head back in the commentary box and leave you to it.
Cheers. Thank you.
Yeah.
So there we go. That was live reaction from the first and second place position there from the race we've just experienced. Really good racing there. Let's just have a look on the chat and see if we've got anyone in particular they want to interview. And as we can see, Jimmy, the Roughneck One squad is out in force.
Yes.
I think it's only time when we jump in and have a chat to him, and I'll give you the honours of the very first question.
Oh, thank you very much. Let's jump in then. Let's leave the commentary box. We're going to head in to... Sorry, I've got some connection issues. Hopefully you can hear me. Roughneck
Yes.
One.
I can hear you.
You can hear us?
I can hear you. Thank you.
You've got quite possibly the biggest fan base over on our Twitch channel right now. Team
Awesome.
hashtag
loads of the
Roughneck
lads.
One. Yeah, they can hear you. They can hear everything you're saying. So you're live on Twitch now, and the lads are there. How did you find the race? What did you enjoy the most?
All the people crashing around me. That was so much fun to watch.
Watching them
I
all
was
come.
disappointed it didn't happen at the first corner, but it sure did later on.
Yeah, absolutely. Had there been a big crash first corner, how would you have dealt with that? You started at the back of the grid. In almost every race I've ever raced in, I'm normally towards the back of the grid. I quite like it because if there is big crashes in the first tight corners, I can cut my way through.
That's the trick. Just find the gap and go for it.
Yeah, exactly
Absolutely.
that. Simple as that. I like your short, sharp points in the race. Now, we did see multiple weather systems come in during the race. In terms of your race at the back of the grid, how much of an effect did they have when you're actually racing? You know, let's say you haven't got many competitors around you for long portions of the game. Does the weather, the darkness that came in, the fog that came in, the various things that we see, how much of a difference does that make when you haven't got competitors around you?
It gets scary because at one point I couldn't see my braking points, so I missed a corner, but that was okay. I got used to the fact that it was getting dark. And then, for want of a better word, hang on a minute.
Just gone to look in the thesaurus.
Yeah, no. I've got you on the Twitch channel. The Twitch channel has come up. At one point, I couldn't even see the bridge until I was underneath it.
Right.
It was just dark and foggy, and
Yeah, it seems to slow the whole track down. Dark and fog. We were just talking. The darkness kind of crept in very quickly, and the fog kind of just appeared from nowhere all of a sudden, which seemed to just slow the whole pack down. But it's nice to see you racing. Remind us what car you were in and how did it feel?
the BMW felt fine. I still haven't got my head around the setups yet. I'm still working on that. But I had it settled so it wasn't tail happy or anything like that, but it was nice to drive.
That's really good to hear. But yeah, as Jimmy said at the start, your fan club has been in touch with us and they wanted to hear from you. So it's really good for you to give us a little bit of your time as we gave you a few questions there about your race. And hopefully we'll
that.
see you
And thanks to the crowd
again next
watching.
Sunday.
Will do.
Perfect. Thank you very much for your
Pleasure.
time. See you soon.
Bye now.
So there we go. That was an interview with Roughneck One, just as you guys wanted. So Jimmy, your thoughts after that race?
Enjoyed it. Look, first time co-commentating. What is nice is to be able to sit here in my luxury chair with my multiple screens and my unlimited juice, watching everybody else make mistakes and not having to be part of that. To be honest, really though, in terms of mistakes, there weren't that many. There was no kind of calamitous crashes or anything like that. I think that we saw good solid driving from every single race tonight. There were a couple of points where we saw just drivers back out of challenges, just ease up on accelerators, things like that, to prevent crashes. And I think, it's that sort of stuff that stands you in good stead for kind of future races, especially in the Project Cars community and the community that the boys are racing in here. I think that, that safe, nice driving makes all the difference, and it prevents arguments and things like that. So the drivers can go out on the track, they can race hard against each other, knowing that really kind of whatever happens by the end of it, they'll all have a good laugh and enjoy the race together. Mr. Salt just come in on the chat there. Man, that was tiring. Mr. Salt, I don't know if we can jump in with you to have a quick chat if you're still in the Project Cars Steam channel. If not, good race. We were watching you for a bit. An hour-long race. Blasotto just come in on the chat there. Talk about the new entries. What do you mean? What do you mean by that?
I think he's probably alluding to the new entries that perhaps haven't made it on the stream before, potentially. But yeah, Mr. Salt has confirmed he's back in the channel, so we'll jump in with the Hot Wheels 10. Now, Hot Wheels 10, for viewers who have watched us many times, does feature Mr. Salt, but it also features Mad Knife as well, who you will know from our Thursday night racing. So me and Jimmy will go and jump in their box now, and we'll have a chat to them both. So we're jumping in the lobby. Hopefully the guys can hear us speaking now. So we have Mr. Salt, we have Mad Knife, who just took part in the race there. So Mr. Salt, solid race overall from you. How did you find, different racing to what we're used to on the channel? We've had, quite sharp 25-minute races, lots of action crammed into one short period. Whereas tonight we saw an hour-long race. Obviously, different levels of concentration needed, different weathers coming in and about. Really a lot for you guys to think about tonight.
It was savage.
I am exhausted.
I enjoyed it completely. I enjoyed it completely. I want to do it again.
Yeah, Kev, don't know about you.
It was a bit lonely at the back to start with, I have to admit, but working my way up to 13th, I thought was all right. I was quite happy with that. I didn't make a mess of it. I didn't go off too many times, so... yeah,
Mad Knife,
where did you? I'm nowhere near as quick.
Where did you? Just talking to Mad Knife, where did you finish the race in the end?
13th.
Did we see?
So,
I don't know. Did we? I
don't
remember.
22nd.
Wow, so you managed to gain 11 places. For some reason on my screen, Ryan, I don't know. It looked like Mad wasn't in final standings. Am I wrong?
I don't know. We only saw the top 10 from the screens before it flashed away, but we, will of course take your word for it, Mad Knife, the 13th place. I can only imagine, to be fair, Jim.
Well, in that case, I was about fourth.
We did see a lot of penalties on the race standings as we were going through the race. So although your name didn't crop up towards the top of the grid, Mad Knife, I imagine it was a mixture of, the game just being the game. We've had all sorts of issues with the game, but the race penalties from others. So you must have kept it nice and clean round the corners generally.
Yeah, I had just the 1 second of penalties, so it was reasonably clean for me.
Mr. Salt, remind us the position you finished.
So I finished 9th. I'm not sure. I think I started around there, maybe 10th, 11th.
Yeah,
like
I think that. So relatively good race. We were just talking to some of the other drivers, mentioning that the night fell fairly quickly and the fog kind of just immediately appeared. Did that hamper your race, or
helped,
was it not?
To be honest, because the tyres were overheating in the first stint. Changed them around halfway point, and then the fog came in. It got darker, got cooler, and that kept the tyres better. So I was up in 7th at one point. I got a penalty. I slowed down. That meant the guys behind caught me, and my race fell apart a little bit there. And then I managed to get it back on track in the last sort of third of the race, to be honest.
Yeah, great. We saw quite a few drivers with penalties. Some, up to kind of 17-second penalties. Some with just a second or two. Talk us through some of the reasons why you got penalties.
So I got I think most would be you just go in wide. You think you've got the traction in the front end on a lot of these cars, and it's not there. So you push on the accelerator, the car goes straight on, and then you go wide. You then get the penalty. That happened to me on the last lap. So I got a 2 second, but someone in front of me, I think, had a 17. So I inherited 9th from 10th, which was good. But generally just going wide, and the game's pretty severe on giving out penalties.
Fair enough. Yeah, we did see a whole host of penalties given out to racers up and down the grid.
Yeah.
Left, right, and centre. But obviously, the big question on everyone's lips, Mr. Salt, are you going to be there on Thursday? People want to see you back.
I'm not. I'm going to the O2 Arena to see the War on Drugs.
Oh, Jimmy, what have you got to say about that? Outrageous scenes from Mr.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I mean, hopefully it means I get to finish a position higher than I normally would. So yeah, stay away for as long as you can.
I will do. Well, I'm looking forward to the championship in January, whatever it is. But
Yes,
yeah,
as
no
you
more
said.
GT3 for me, unfortunately.
Loads of championships coming up. Hopefully you guys will be involved. You know, we got Thursday nights, we got Sunday nights, lots going on. But once again, thank you for your time, gents. And I'm sure
Thank
we'll
you.
catch you on the stream soon. Really appreciate it.
See you again. Thank you.
Cheers, boys.
Cheers, lads.
So there we go. There was the reaction there from the Hot Wheels 10 team, who are regulars racers on the Noob Gamers live channel. So Jimmy, we've had the chance to speak to many racers now about their experience. If you could sum up your one takeaway from this hour-long race we've seen this evening, if you were going to give out one tip to people who might want to try this sort of racing in the future, what would you think is going to be?
I think my tip would be to just to give it a go if you've not done it before. The good thing about this is that you don't need to know loads about setups. You don't need to understand about tyre pressures or suspension or brakes or anything like that. Your car comes kind of set up, and if you notice you're going around tight corners and you're losing the back end, there's a great system in place where you can go to the race engineer and you can say, it'll come up with a whole list of kind of things that are going wrong, and you could just click and say, you know, my back end's spinning out, and the race engineer will go, okay, let's try changing the downforce on the rear end. So you don't need to know about tweaking all the cars and stuff like this, and you can still be kind of up there with some of the more pro, more kind of long-standing drivers. So I would be suggesting to just to give it a go and you know, have a blast on it, really.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, ultimately, yes, we like to take this seriously. You know, we like to put on a bit of a show for people at home to watch the racing because, you know, it is the races that we've got are really high level. We've got some really fast races. You know, you see T-Mac week in, week out, always at the top of the grid, and there's a reason for that. He puts in the time, tries, you know, to tweak the cars where he can, get the most out of every single car, just to really hone in those seconds on the cars. But ultimately, this is gaming. This is, you know, this is competitive gaming that you've seen here tonight, but it is computer gaming. And as you said, Jim, just pick up a controller, pick up a wheel, whatever it is, get involved, find your love for the game, and just come on racing with us, because you know it's it can be a lot of fun, and certainly a lot to learn. Even if you're only a tiny little bit into cars, there's certainly a lot to pick out. So really good racing from everyone there. Really thank you to have you guys at home. You know, we really appreciate the support on the channel. Thank you for the little follow there from God Lang, who just
Brilliant.
joined us in the chat there. So, Jim, there's only one thing left to do, and that's what we do at the end of every stream.
Is that when we do the thing where we take off our clothes and we go stand on the chair and spin round and do the?
No, that's just what me and you do with each other, mate. You know, we thought we were going to keep that on the down low rather than you know, going around speaking about it. But you know, it's out there now, so you know that's over. But no,
Right,
what I
everybody
am
on their
talking
chairs.
about.
Sorry.
Because obviously you might be on a chair for all I know. Who cares? You know, we can't see you on the stream, but people can see me, Jim. I don't want to give the game away, but we're of course talking about the end of stream raid. We love jumping on other people's channels on Twitch because the big important thing about Twitch is it is a community, and the only way Twitch works is from other Twitch streamers helping each other out, bringing communities together and trying to do the best, because that's the only way it can work. You know, it's really difficult to get anywhere in Twitch if you're not willing to you know, do a bit of networking from time to time. So I'm just looking at the channels we've got available to us tonight, Jimmy, and I've opened up a big can of worms. We're in the Just Chatting section of Twitch, which gives us a whole host of things we could be looking at. We've got people singing, we've got people drawing, we've got people watching other people. There's someone in some sort of parlour doing something. There's loads of stuff going on. It's not necessarily gaming, it could be anything. So we're going to try and jump in board with one of these. So while I try and find someone, Jim, I wonder whether you could have the honours of closing our stream down, and once again thank you everyone from the support we've received this evening.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, for those who aren't familiar with the raid, what happens is essentially Ryan is going to drag all of us into a random Twitch channel. So you'll all become spectators in a random Twitch channel. It could be anything, like Ryan said. It doesn't sound like it's going to be gaming tonight. It could be someone drawing. It could be somebody singing. It could be somebody spinning around on their chair naked. Nobody knows quite what's going to happen. Before you do, you might see just at the top of the screen a subscribe button. Hit the subscribe button on this channel, on the Noob Gamers channel now. That will give you a subscription to for this channel, so you'll get some notifications and things like that. That'll enable a decent raid into the next channel. When you get in there, you're going to use the hashtag Noob Raid, which you'll see now hopefully come up in the chat. It's hashtag Noob Raid. As soon as you get into this next channel, you're going to be putting in there Noob Raid, and then while you're in there, just press subscribe. So I don't know if we find something, Ryan. Don't forget the hashtag Noob Raid as Ryan drags us into whatever the darkest depths of Twitch can deal with.
Yes, well, I've gone with something slightly different tonight. Now, the channel's called Homebody Lifestyle. There's currently just 2 or 3 people watching the channel, and at the moment, Jimmy, a personal little love of mine, I do like a bit of Pokemon every now and again, and we've got a young lady on screen who's opening packs of Pokemon cards. So we're gonna jump straight. We're gonna jump straight in there. So once again, as Jimmy said, we really appreciate the support. I hope you can all join us for the raid, as we love bringing our community to other people's communities, because that is an important part of Twitch, which keeps the whole engine ticking. So once again, it's goodbye from me. We're going to be raiding in 10 seconds. So thank you very much for your support, and thank you for joining me tonight, Jimmy.
Yeah, thanks very much. Here comes the hashtag Noob Raid.